everybody, welcome back to my channel. So today's video is the 5th episode in my colour pencil tutorial series, and today I'm going to be focusing on how you can draw realistic skin using Prismacolor colour pencils. And I've had lots of requests to do this tutorial, so I thought I would do it. Even though I don't really use Prismacolors that much to draw skin, I mainly use the Caran d'Ache Luminance at the moment. So for the white pencil I will be using Caran d'Ache because I don't have a white Prismacolor pencil, but the white Prismacolor pencil will work just the same. So I'm going to be drawing 4 different types of skin. So I'll be drawing a light tone, and then a mid tone, and then a browner tone, and then like a dark brown skin colour, just to show you the variety of skin tones that you can create using the Prismacolor pencils. And the Prismacolor pencils that I'll be using are the pencils that you would get with the portrait set by Prismacolor. So after I do each skin tone, I will list the coloured pencils that I used to do each one. So I hope you enjoy the tutorial. If you do, please give it a share, which will really help the video and my channel. Anyway, let's get on with the first skin colour. So the first thing that I did was I applied a layer of light peach all over the area, and then I also added a layer of peach on the shadowed areas at the bottom of the circle. Once I'd done that, I then used the colour beige, which added more of a realistic tone and took away some of the pinkness of it. And then I finally added some cream to the light area where the highlights are at the top of the circle. Once I had done that, I then used these colours again, and I just kept building up the layers. So when I'm drawing skin, I start off by doing a lot of light layers, and then I increase the pressure as I add more and more layers. Because once you've applied pressure and burnished into the paper, it means that you flatten the tooth of the paper, so you can't apply much more colour pencil over the top of that. So it's really important that at the start you don't apply much pressure at all. I also added salmon pink and pink in there as well to add more of a pinkish healthy glow to it, especially if you're drawing women and they have blusher on. This is the kind of colours you would use on the cheeks. Also on the darker regions I used a bit of light umber as well, just to give it more of a shadow. So when I'm applying the pencil, I try to use oval motions rather than lines, but I will go in a certain direction, but I'll do this with my wrist going in a circular sort of motion, which helps get more of an even coverage and prevents having stop and start points. And it also means you get a smooth blending rather than it looking really streaky. Once I built up the colours to how I wanted them, I then went in with the light peach, and I used this with a lot more pressure to try and burnish and blend these colours into the paper. But I still wasn't applying loads of pressure because I wanted to add some more layers on top of this. When I was burnishing the highlighted regions, instead of using that light peach, I used a white Caran d'Ache pencil instead, but the Prismacolor white would work the same, and I also used the white colour pencil to smooth over the rest of the skin. And that's basically it for the first skin tone. So the important things to remember are to use circular motions when you're applying your colour pencil, and also that you don't apply much pressure at the start, and to build up those layers of different colours to get as much depth and 3-dimension into the skin as possible, so that it looks a bit more natural. Okay, so now I'm listing all the colours that I used in this first skin tone, but I'll also write them in the description below as well. The first skin tone that I did had more of a pinkish undertone, so for the second skin colour I'm going to give it more of a yellow undertone. And so I start by applying a layer of jasmine, and then I add a bit of beige, and then I start adding light umber for the shadowed areas. So once again I am using circular motions, and I've done a lot of other tutorials on how I draw skin as well. So if you want to hear me talk more about the technique that I use to apply the pencil and stuff like that, then make sure you go and check out those other videos, but they are when I'm using the Caran d'Ache Luminance coloured pencils rather than the Prismacolors. So once I've finished adding the light umber, I then go in with the salmon pink, which adds more depth to it and gives it more of a pinkish tone so it's not just yellowish. And then I carry on building up the darker shadows by using the dark brown in conjunction with the light umber. And as I apply more and more layers, I'm applying a bit more pressure each time to build up the coverage and lose some of that white graininess. Once I've done that, I lightly blend it with a layer of cream colour, and then I go in with the beige colour and apply a lot more pressure all over the skin. For the highlighted regions, once again, instead of just using beige, I use some of that white colour as well. And I also use the white colour all over the skin to help blend it out and make it a bit more smooth. Once I finished blending with the white, I added some more of the salmon pink colour and also the terracotta and burnt siennas on the shadow regions, because when you add the white coloured pencil, it washes out the colours slightly. So these are all the colours that I used for the second skin tone, and now moving on to the third skin tone, this is where it's a slightly darker but more tan skin tone as well. So because this is a darker skin tone, I'm using more of the darker coloured pencils. And so the first layer that I'm applying is using the light umber. And I'm applying a very even coverage to the whole of the skin, and I'm using very, very light pressure. And I'm going in circular motions, but I'm switching my directions to make sure that I go in all the little crevices and get a really even, smooth coverage. Once I've done that, I then go in with the dark brown and I use this on the really shadowed areas at the bottom of that circle. And as I'm veering away from the shadows, I use less and less of the coloured pencil to help transition into the highlighted regions. I then apply some more light umber to build up the coverage and also transition the shadows into the highlights a bit more. Once I've done that, I then go in with the burnt ochre, and this adds more of a warm glow to it and stops it looking so flat. And then I blend it out a bit with the sand colour, and I add a bit of salmon pink to again give it a healthy glow and a bit of a pinkish touch to it. Now I'm just layering the colours again, so I'm using the dark brown on the shadowed regions, and then I'm using a lot of the light umber to help blend and transition as well. And now I'm really starting to burnish the colours into each other by applying a lot more pressure on the coloured pencils. So when you're drawing skin and you're trying to decide what colours you need to use, it's useful to get your reference photo and pull it into a simple program like Paint or something, and then use the eyedropper tool to identify what the colour is that you're trying to draw. So now I just wanted to show you another technique that you can use to blend coloured pencils, and especially when you're drawing skin you might want to use this because it works really nicely with wax based pencils. So another way that you can get really smooth skin is to use solvent, and here I'm using the Zest It pencil blend. And what you can do is apply a bit of this on the paintbrush, and then once you've applied all your layers you can use a really small amount of this solvent and it will blend really nicely and you can get some really nice smooth results. But this is quite a tricky technique, so you may need a bit of practice before you're able to do this really well. One good thing about solvent is that once it's dried you can go over it with more layers, which means that you can get a lot more layers using this technique because the solvent doesn't damage the tooth of the paper. Okay, so moving on to my last skin colour, this is a much darker skin colour, and I'm starting off by applying a layer of light umber again, but in this case because it's a darker skin colour I'm applying a bit more pressure onto that light umber. And I'm also applying an even coverage over the whole of the skin. Next I'm going in with the dark brown, and I'm using this in the shadowed areas and quite a way up the skin as well. And because this is a dark skin tone, I can apply the first layers with a lot more pressure because I need to start building up the darkness. And because this is a dark skin tone, in order to get those dark skin colours, I need to apply a bit more pressure onto the pencil at the start. So that it doesn't look so flat, I'll be going in with the colour Henna, and I'm using this on the mid-tones up into the highlights. This is a pinkish tone, but it's a lot deeper, and this is really complementary to this skin tone. And especially this is the colour that women of this skin tone might have on their skin as blusher. And once I've added that, I'll then go in with the beige, and I'll use this on the highlighted regions. Again, I want to show you how you can use Solvent to blend all these skin colours. So I'll be using Zest It Pencil Blend again to show you how you can achieve smooth skin. But this time, once I've applied the solvent, I'm then going to wait for it to dry and go over it with an additional layer of coloured pencil. Anyway, that's it for this tutorial. I really hope you found it useful. Remember, if you did, it would really help me out and the channel if you could share this video. And also, if you're new to my channel, I'm doing this series every Tuesday, so feel free to subscribe if you don't want to miss out on my future colour pencil tutorials. As always, I'll leave a link to my online store and my social media sites in the description below. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye!